Good evening and welcome to round three at the Circuit of the Americas. Right along board with Raven Plummer, who's 4 tenths off of Bill Charles, who's in pole position at the moment. Minute and 16 remaining. Jaden Harrison, typically one who is in the top split. He's struggling a little bit here this evening, testing out that new Peugeot. Seeing him locking his brakes from time to time. Right now we're right along board with Raven Plummer as she is hunting down the likes of Emanuelle Charles. Not particularly rapid in sector 2. 43.8 versus 42.9 for the Trinidadian. He's still trying to extend his lead here this evening. He comes around the final corner. And this will be his final lap of the evening. Mr. Emanuelle Charles, Jaden Harrison completely off the pace here tonight. 32.497 in sector 1. Diego Scenarios of Panama, or GT Panama, is in P3 right now. And the grid is coming into play, but right now Emanuelle Charles looking like he's stamping his dominance here. 31.038 in sector 1 for him. Head straight to the pits after a mistake. Raven Plummer looking to hold on to her lead. She's 4 tenths off of the Trinidad driver. Man, I love the sound of that Cadillac. And that's Dominic Charles in the chat. Welcome, Dom. Can't wait to have you here as well, bro. We are trying to fill out the grid. This is a pre-season, just a sprint series, just to prepare the drivers for the endurance series that we'll have in store, which we are trying to get sponsored, and we are in communication with our sponsors as we speak to get the rest of this year fully paid for the drivers. Looking forward to seeing what we can do. Cadillac heads into the pits. So ladies and gentlemen, this does bring qualifying to a conclusion as Raven Plummer is the last driver that was out. Jaden Harrison, I don't think he's on a valid lap right now. Even if he is, he's still not necessarily rapid. I think just trying to get used to that car, but yep, there he goes back into the pits. So right now we have 4 LMDH cars, 9 GT3s. We are still working on the grid, trying to get it as best as possible, but there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That does bring qualifying to an end. We have a Trinidadian on the top of the grid.
Drivers go to the grid for a race start.
Again, testing out the features of this new platform here over in LMU, my apologies. We have Emanuelle Charles on pole position, the Raven Plummer in P2, Diego Scenarios of GT Panama in P3, Jaden Harrison in P4. That ends the LMDH cars. We have Michelle Wallace leading the GT3 class in P1, and Camila in P2. Javier Brandao in P3, Rich Dial in P4, Ramiro Dominguez sits P5, Ricardo Suebe in P6. Vincent Da Silva did not do qualifying, as well as Sebastian Rodriguez, and to round out the grid is Andres Lopez. All not partaking in that qualifying session, but look forward to seeing what they can bring the next few moments as the grid now lines up on the field. Mikhail Charles leads from Raven Plummer, from Diego Cineros, from Jaden Harrison. We want more LMDH cars on the grid. Looking forward to seeing Ian Lance, typically on the grid, but unfortunate for him, will not be making it this evening. Mikhail Charles pulls away. Raven Plummer right behind. Diego Cineros in P3. Panama and Jaden Harrison. Not sure what's going on with him right there. And there he goes, rejoins. Slightly erratic, but continue to watch that. Michelle Wallace did not win, won the first round. Was leading for the majority of round 2 until making his own mistake, but we will ride along board now. It's Vincent and Andres exit the pits. LMDH cars right there, fighting it out for the mix. Jaden going the long way around. Right behind them is Michelle Wallace. Javier Brandao and Ramiro Dominguez jumps up 2 positions immediately. So Michelle leads from Camilo, from Javier, from Ramiro. This is going to be fun to watch. In the meantime, Jaden has made a move on the Panama Drive. I think I just heard somebody make a... Ooh, what is that? GT Panama out in their numbers this evening. Happy to have them on board. The Jamaicans in Ricardo Suebe, sitting down waiting on his moment to pounce on Aston Martin in front of him. We are missing a few drivers. Kurt Moss made it for round 1 and round 2. Ian Lance as well, putting on the majority of the moves for this season, especially between Ian and Jaden. Kurt, Michelle. We are also missing Matty Titus, so. But the grid is growing. We are now at 17 drivers for this evening. Oh, my apologies. 13 drivers for this evening. Excuse my maths. American driver on our home ground, chasing down a Trinidad driver in Mikhail Charles. Still learning the ins and outs of this platform, so please bear with me as I test and try, but loving these overlays by LMU. Following the WEC format, which is what we try to follow our best in our endurance series. This is a prelude to the endurance series that we have coming up in the next few weeks, as a matter of fact, because LMU should be launching the liveries and driver swap feature, which will definitely engage our sponsors to start coming in and enjoying what we have in store for them. Well, we'll continue to watch this battle, but as this one goes on, Michelle Wallace extending his gap now by 3 seconds. And looking dominant, if I do say so myself. So looking forward to seeing what he can bring here this evening. We know he likes this platform. Raven there. 45 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Still doing my best to learn the ins and outs of the stream, so please give me a little bit of time to adjust. That is the purpose of this series, to help the drivers acclimatize themselves with the platform, the streamers. And Jaden Harrison now catching up to the back of Raven Plummer and Mikhail Charles. Locking up there by the Peugeot in Jaden Harrison. He's been dominant in the Toyota. I guess he got tired of the Toyota dominance here. Let's see, Mikhail Charles there is enjoying that car, as you can see. The Raven Plummer right there in the background. Diego Sinner is not too far out, 4 seconds behind. Has some work to do, but it's a 45-minute race, 40 minutes remaining. We'll continue to watch this battle. We'll just take a quick look at Ricardo, as he's now about a second off of Ramiro Dominguez in front of him. Sebastian Rodriguez, car number 265. Good friend of ours over at the GT Panama team. Sits now in P11. P7 in his class. Australian driver in Rich Dial. Doing the best so far for this season as well, as a matter of fact. Sits in P3. Doing very well, if I do say so myself. Started the highest up in the grid as he's ever. Now has a charging Ramiro Dominguez, the popular Panamanian driver who I've always enjoyed here at the Jsra Racing, car number 777. And right behind them it's Ricardo Swaby, who, if I do say so myself, is holding his own, because Vincent Da Silva not closing the gap as quickly as we thought he would. Vincent was in that battle between Kurt Moss last week at the Imola circuit, and was hounding the rear of that BMW M4 driven by Kurt Moss. Missing in action this week. Ramiro Dominguez moves up to P3. Sorry we missed that move, but continue to watch this battle. Jaden as well has caught up to the back of Mikhail Charles. 1.1 seconds is the difference between them. We'll continue to monitor that and see Just take a quick look there as Jaden pulling up 6/10 is a gap between himself and that Toyota. Good friends off the track. Let's say how good of friends they are on the track. As Jaden Harrison sits in the slipstream as they come around the final corner. Jaden looking. We've seen moves go on that inside line. Is this going to be Jaden's late move? No, takes a look and backs out of it. Still hasn't fully given that up though. And that looked like Mikhail to that corner extremely slow. Just took his time to get back on the gas. Is that tactics or is Jaden just being impatient? But there goes Jaden just sitting down ready to make his move. And what this is doing is bringing Raven Plummer right back into the action, as she's just watching right in front. Right in front there, 2/10 is the gap between the two. Jaden Harrison sitting in the slipstream of Mikhail Charles. Takes a look on the inside, knows that it's not close enough. Throws a dummy. Was that enough? Jaden Harrison goes on the inside, and that looks like a move done. Jaden Harrison up into pole position. Javier Brando, was that? No, it was not. But this battle is not over. Michael Charles now side by side, touching wheels. Takes a wider line. Tries to get a better exit, but Jaden Harrison looks like he's got this move done and dusted. Who is that in front of them? Is that Andres Lopez? Yes, it is. Goes wide. Jaden gets through. Next up is Michael Charles, Raven Plumber next. Ooh. That looks a little bit nerve-wracking if I do say so myself. Slight bit of a brown pants moment for them, but gets around clean. No incidents, and we'll live to fight another day. Ricardo Swaby there. Few tenths off of Sedao, Australian rival. These two have found themselves in a battle every single week. Ramir Dominguez was in P3 a few laps ago, did drop back to P5. He's caught back up to the likes of Ricardo Swaby and a Rich Dyer in front of him. At least we'll see some overtaking action here from the Aston Martin. One of the prettier cars in my opinion. Right behind the Porsche. And while we're watching the others, here goes the LMH cars. Ooh, and there goes Vincent De Silva coming back on the track, right to the midst of the action. Gets a good view. Michael Charles and Jaden Harrison again, another week finding some action between Jaden and one of the other drivers at Toyota, just hounding the likes of the Jamaican driver. Michael goes for a move on the inside. Took his look, made his move. Hasn't stuck as well. That Toyota is not braking as well as that Peugeot here this evening. Michael Charles not giving an inch. Seen some front wing damage there on that Toyota though, and there again a little bit of rubbing. These are not the best cars for rubbing, if I do say so myself. In the meantime, this is where it gets. So it looks as if maybe he got taken out there. He's now 14, 15 seconds behind Diego. Diego right now sits in. It's coming, and there makes contact with Ricardo. These two continue their battle. 5.6 seconds is Ramiro from the likes of Jaden Harrison now pulling up to it. There goes Jaden looking out the as they pull up to the GT3 leader in Michelle Wallace. Jaden goes a long way around. Diego not giving it up just that quickly. But the outside does turn to the inside. The inside line is ideal. Jaden Harrison moves up into P3. Now to just get past quickly the GT3 car leader. In front of him, Michelle Wallace getting a good view of this battle. Jaden Harrison now is on the hunt for Raven Plummer. 11 seconds to the bright yellow Cadillac. Jaden is on the hunt to see where he can catch up, make back some moves. He's seen a little bit of damage there on the back left fender. Diego not necessarily letting him get away though. He's just sitting down, maybe learning a thing or two. Where to set a move. But as that's going on, Raven Plummer and Mikhail Charles there. Raven has caught back up to the likes of the Trinidad on 1.5 seconds behind. Raven is finding some pace here now. This is her third race on Le Mans Ultimate. Sits in P2. Trying to get away from Jaden Harrison, but has been maintaining that gap at about 11, maybe 12 seconds. Her best lap has been a 154.7. Jaden Harrison 152.8. So he will definitely be pushing in the next few laps. That is Mikhail Charles there, trying to get through Javier Brandao as quickly as possible. And that brought Raven right into the mix as 5/10 now is the gap between Mikhail and that Cadillac. And look at the front of that Toyota, man, compared to the Cadillac. Mikhail, what have you been doing this race, brother? Back left fender as well. Not looking ideal. Cadillac is just absolutely pristine. Sounds amazing. The hunt is on for the top step of the podium. Diego, though, is looking now and finding some pace now. Maybe learned a thing or two in that Porsche. Pace has been found. Well, we've been watching this fight. Ramiro now has caught back up to the likes of Rich Dial. Trying to make that move. And even that, Vincent Da Silva as well, right there, finds himself on the back. Aston Martin. This is where it's going to get interesting. This is Vince can see a podium. With 23 minutes remaining, Vincent is one of the rapid drivers. Rich there, front left. Looks like it's taking some beating. Carter Swaby hoping that the likes of the Australian behind him can just hold off. Two Panama drivers behind him. Give him as much time to pull away as possible. Continue to watch the gap between Raven Plummer and Mikhail Charles. That gap between Jaden and Raven has dropped down to now 11 seconds. Again, with 20 minutes remaining. Anything can happen. Ramiro there taking a look to see if he can make the move on Rich Dyer as they head up that hill. Ramiro gets the inside line. That looks like a move done. Rich just parking it through the corner. Vincent looking a little bit confused there at what was to be done. Rich Dyer now has Vincent De Silva in his rear view. And there he goes, sliding through the corners. Vince sees an opportunity now, goes on the out, goes on the inside. Side by side action. Vince takes that position, P5 in the GT3 class, has his teammate in front of him in Ramiro Dominguez to catch back up to. Ramiro seeing the likes of Ricardo Suebe. Ricardo got a little bit of a gap between himself. But still, is it enough? 3 seconds of gap between Ricardo and Ramiro. And ooh, my apologies, as we've been watching that, Jaden has lost out to Diego, but Diego and Jaden have taken position away from Raven Plummer. Raven has dropped back by 15 seconds. Not sure what happened there. As they pull up on the likes of Andres Lopez. Gets her on very quickly. Diego hasn't given up though. Jaden has some work to do with 21 minutes remaining. This is interesting because Diego didn't have the pace in the first stint. Jaden caught back up past him. And once he came and passed him, he stood behind Jaden for a little bit, and then his race just came alive. And there goes Jaden on the inside, send the move. And that looks like a move done. He looked late. I didn't expect it necessarily. But Diego hasn't given up yet. But Jaden does hug the inside line for now. Diego goes wide around. Maybe a little bit too wide if I do say so myself. And I'm sorry we missed it, but Ramiro drops back 2 positions. Looked good. Was on the hunt for Ricardo. Now he's behind his teammate in Vincent De Silva and his competitor in Rich Dyer. So while we've been watching this battle, that's happening. So Ramiro, who was in P4, now sits in P6. This has been the story of the day for him. I believe this is his first time racing on the Monster Ultimate, so he's just getting used to it at this point. But still, again, has to make the move on Rich Dyer in front of him. Let's go, Ramiro Dominguez. Vince puts that car where it needs to. Throwing Ricardo off of its line here. Looked on the outside, looked on the inside. Gets a better run now. He's on the outside line. Will he send a move? Nope. Ricardo immediately goes defensive. And that gives the ideal line now for Vince da Silva. Goes on the outside, swings it to the left. Ricardo not giving it up as yet. And is that Michael Charles to pass through? And the two are on an absolute drag race here. Ricardo does have the outside line. Good defense there by Ricardo Swaby. As he holds on to that final podium position. Michelle Wallace leading by 25 seconds in the GT3 class. So he has found his footing here. 16.5 minutes remaining. There goes Vincent da Silva. Fighting brakes early, goes to the switcheroo, and there he goes. Up into place, P3. Jaden Harrison now comes across. Has to be careful. Comes around the final corner, and that is the move done by the Panama driver on the Jamaican. Well, we've been watching that. Right behind them is Ramiro. Still hasn't made the move on the Australian driver in front of him. Still looking to see where he can make that move. 4 tenths is the gap between these two. Just an update with the LMH cars, ladies and gentlemen. The likes of Jaden Harrison has closed that gap from 13 seconds to 8 seconds to himself and Michael Charles. Porsche of Diego Cineros coming around. So move down quick and fast. Gets around quickly to get his race continued and moving on. Moving on right along. Ramiro Dominguez still chasing down 4P5. Looks on the inside, a little bit of contact. Concedes back that position. That's what we love about these drivers. They don't want to force their way through. It has to be done clean and tidy. Ramiro immediately gives back the position, but still 15 minutes remaining. Has enough time to make this move stick, but Rich Dial, best race of his season here at the Jsra, has been doing absolutely amazing here. There's a charging Panama driver right behind him. We haven't got to hear much about our friends over in Sebastian or Andres. There's Javier right there in the background as well. At least see somebody to play with. Still a lap down. Is he? Not sure what had happened with him at the start. Jaden Harrison, that 8-second gap last lap has dropped to 6 seconds. So will we have a fight for the lead in the LMH cars here this evening? Boy, oh boy, do I hope so. 13 minutes remaining here. Jaden Harrison, though, can see the likes of Michael Charles. Is Michael wait? Does he have a problem? That 12-second gap has dropped relatively quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final lap of this race. Michael Charles and Mission Wallace have been dominant here this evening. Jaden Harrison finding himself in an incident with one of the GT3 cars in Ramiro Dominguez. Did catch back up to the Trinidadian, but very short-lived. This mission goes through the S's, and that is Michael Charles finding himself in the wall at the final corner. And Jaden Harrison to take the win in the final moment. And hearing them laughing in the background. Unfortunate loss there for Michael Charles. He was just having some fun, I'm guessing. But Jaden Harrison does take the victory here this evening. I'm guessing it won't be the same luck for Mr. Vincent Da Silva, who's made his way up into P2 from P11. BMW dominance here this evening, folks, as Michelle Wallace 35.5 seconds clear off the cars behind him. Pulling up there on Sebastian. Michelle Wallace comes across the line to take victory for the GT3 class. Raven Plummer there comes in P4 for the LMDH. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an eventful race. Vincent Da Silva is still finishing up this race now, and as he sits in the pits, Ricardo Suebi